It's time to react to the world.
Yeah! We're gonna do something a little bit different today.
Oh.
That's right. It's not a music video. It's not a trailer. It's not something funny or amazing for America Got Talent.
Oh my god, I'm nervous.
No, baby.
I'm
this
gonna
is
need my brain
the
on
natural evolution of where we're going as we react to the world. You know, when we started out, we kind of just reacted to things that we liked. So we did a lot of reaction to movie trailers, a lot of Marvel, a lot of Disney. And then I expanded to our interests around K-pop and then other types of music around the world. Now that we got fans from all over the world, and now that we got over 10,000 subscribers, I want to better understand where you're from. You know what I'm saying? The cultures from around the world. So what I'm doing is now looking for recommendations for videos that showcase the people of your country, the cultures, the foods, all those things that we love experiencing when we travel the world. And because we've done a lot of reactions to K-pop and stuff from South Korea, I figured, why don't we start off with a geography lesson about South Korea?
Yeah.
Since Lulu doesn't like to study, I have to package things up into a music video so that she would like to watch.
Exactly. That's why I said I was nervous.
I'm always nervous too, because this just might be the first time we see someone fall asleep in the middle of a reaction video.
I'm not gonna sleep. There's a camera in front of me, so I'm gonna keep my eyes open.
Are you just going to enter the Lulu world?
Yes, the Lulu world.
I see. One great channel that I saw out there is a site called Geography Now. And what this guy has done is put together these quick, fast-paced geography facts and fun bits of information about each country. He's going through the whole alphabet. And he's about up through, I think maybe halfway now. So he hasn't got to the Philippines yet. But he has gone to Korea, or South Korea in this particular case.
Right.
And he himself actually, I find out, is part South Korean.
I see.
So this will be interesting because I think he would actually do a lot more research than normal to give us a little bit of the rundown, if you will.
Nice. But this is different than travel vlog.
Yeah, this is not a travel vlog per se, because I think what I wanted to do before I jump into other people's travel vlogs, which would be interesting to watch as well, is I think we need to know about the country first. Most travel vloggers aren't actually giving you interesting information or information that gives you knowledge. It's just seeing and experiencing live, but it doesn't mean we know anything about like the people there or what the food's about. They're just kind of talking about stuff off the top of their head. And you can probably tell we like to, do reactions around things where we get a little bit smarter each day. And hopefully we share some of that with you all too.
That's right.
Why are you laughing?
I'm laughing at a part where we like to learn. I like to learn too. Don't.
You can't even say it with a straight face. Are you kidding me? All right. So this is what I've done with this particular video, FYI.
Okay.
The host talks really fast. And I know that we have a lot of international viewers who appreciate the fact that we tend to speak more deliberately. I slowed the video down about 20% so that he actually speaks in a way that feels like we could digest it a little bit more. It's a little bit extra work.
Thank you.
But
we appreciate that.
Okay. And away we go.
여러분 안녕하십니까? 오늘 특별한 손님을 모시고 왔습니다. 제 어머니입니다. Come on in, mom. 엄마, 자기 소개 부탁드립니다.
안녕하세요. 저는 폴.
She doesn't look like she want to be there. I don't think she's acting. She even's like,
I know. Can I just go somewhere?
엄마입니다.
That's it. We've reached the last and final country of my own personal heritage, so I figured why not go out with a bang and bring my own mom on the show. You're gonna love her, and if you don't, I'll basically kill you.
It's time to learn geography.
No! For the record, yes, my mom speaks English, and whenever she comes on screen, we'll most likely speak Konglish with each other since my Korean skill level is equivalent to a 5-year-old that got electrocuted in the brain. Nonetheless, that's okay! This episode will be a piece of chapsaltteok. Let's begin. First of all, South Korea makes up the bottom half of the Korean peninsula in East Asia, located between the Yellow Sea, the Gyeonggi Bay, the Jeju Strait, and the Korea Strait off Japan's Tsushima Island. And this thing, which, be careful what you call it, the Chinese and Koreans call it the East Sea, whereas the Japanese and others might call it the Sea of Japan. The country is divided into 8 provinces, 6 metropolitan cities that act as their own entities, a special self-governing province, Jeju-do Island, and the capital Seoul, that has the title of Special City, acting as its own entity as well. Then you have this weird thing, Sejong, a special autonomous city. Back in 2007, the government was like, crap, we have too many people here in Seoul.
Yeah, half the country lives here. We need to move some people out.
That's actually a good idea, but how do we make them move?
Why don't we move the government buildings and make a second capital? We could also incentivize people to move in. Kind of work with Brazil.
Great! As we mentioned in the North Korea episode, South Korea has a border with their brothers up north at the DMZ, or Demilitarized Zone, patrolled by over 2 million people at any given moment. In addition, there are 4 known tunnels that have been built underneath the border, including what South Korea calls the Third Tunnel of Aggression. Basically, in 1978, it went down like this. Oh, what the? Why is there a tunnel under my? Oh no. Hey, UN, North Korea built this as an act of aggression.
No, it's a coal mine.
There's no coal here, it's all granite and igneous rock. And what about those other 3 tunnels we discovered?
Clearly, we were looking for coal in other places because it wasn't here.
Today, it's a tourist spot heavily guarded by South Korean troops. There are suspected to be possibly around 20 more tunnels, but info on that is classified. Otherwise, South Korea has 11 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, the Baekje Mounds, these Dolmen Sites, Cheongdeokgung Palace, Gyeongju Historic Village, Haeinsa Temple, Andonghwahae Maul, Hwasong Fortress, the Jongmyo Shrine, Namansansong Fortress City, the Royal Tombs of the Joseon Dynasty, and Bulguksa Temple. Otherwise, some other notable spots of interest might include places like Everland, Korea's largest theme park.
I want to go there.
The world's largest indoor theme park. Gyeongbokgung Palace, Seoul Tower, the War Memorial, Lotte Tower, the tallest building in the peninsula and 5th in the world, the National
That is
Museum,
beautiful.
Dongdaemun Market, Busan's Fish Market, Daegu's Arboretum, the thermal
Man, I need to
springs
come
of
back here and
Wonju.
take
Mom,
notes
what's your
next time we
favorite
go
place
South
to visit
Korea.
in Korea?
Maybe you can go to the Gangwon-do. Interesting place, so you can see that.
And the list goes on and on. Just like Japan, there are too many quirky, interesting, colorful sites to list. Alas, we must move on. If you go to South Korea, you'll notice that the countryside is actually very picturesque if you can get all the tacky apartment buildings out of the way from your view. Around 80% of the country is mountainous. They share the same Taebaek mountain chain with North Korea. The longest river is the Nakdong that flows all the way from the mountain chain into the East Sea along Busan. Since North Korea took Mount Paektu, South Korea's highest point switched to Mount Hallasan, a shield volcano located on Jeju Island. It last erupted over 1,000 years ago. This makes Jeju Island a unique place from the rest of Korea, with famous lava tube caves, Sunrise Peak, and the Dragon Head Coast. In Boryong, you have the famous mud flats that holds a festival every year that draws in over 2 million visitors. Bosong is famous for their tea fields. The problem is that summers are so incredibly humid and filled with mosquitoes. Mom, do you remember when I was a kid, they made me camp in the Yeongdong pine fields, and it was like, oh my god, so terrible. They made me brush my teeth and like bathe in the river, and the bathrooms were just holes in the ground.
Yes, I
Nice.
That's camping, dude.
remember. I never been there, but I heard all kind of terrible story about that.
Oh, and every year between winter and spring, they experience Hwangsa, the yellow dust season, in which
Ooh.
dust
Oh,
particles
they
from the
get
Gobi
that?
Desert are swept up by
That's
fast winds
horrible.
and cover all of East.
I had experienced that once when I was in Beijing, and you cough up
Whoa.
like yellow dust.
Oh my.
China and the Koreas, sometimes even as far as Japan and parts of Russia. This is the reason why you see so many Asians wearing those surgical masks like every year. Now, in the North Korea episode, I discussed a list of notable Korean dishes. I'm not gonna do it again, but as you know, kimchi is the national dish. 그런데 우리 어머니가 김치
I didn't know
만드는 법을 가르쳐 주겠습니다.
첫째, 소금물에 배추를 절이고, 둘째, 절여주는 동안에 양념을 만드는데 고춧가루, 마늘, 생강 갈은 것, 그리고 설탕, 젓갈이 필요합니다. 모든 것을 잘 믹스하여 놓은 동안에 절여진 배추를 꺼내서 깨끗하게 씻고 먹기 좋은 사이즈로 잘라서 준비해 놓은 양념으로 버무려서 싱싱한 것을 먹고 싶으면 그냥 먹고 아니면은 2-3일 동안 두었다가 약간 익었을 때 먹으면 맛있습니다.
Now, keep in mind there are hundreds of different types of kimchi out there, but cabbage is the most popular one.
Ah, That's why she keeps looking at the monitor. She keeps looking up.
You know what? That happens a lot. Like, we sometimes keep looking at the monitor too instead of the camera. It takes effort to do that.
That's kind of unique to South Korea as opposed to North Korea is that they kind of like to eat sannakji sometimes, live squirming octopus dipped in hot sauce. They also like to eat live spoon worms. Trust me though, that's kind of tame compared to some regions in China.
I can't deal with that. Too fresh. That's too fresh.
Too healthy.
Too fresh.
Economy-wise, though, South Korea is all about the tech industry. Some of their largest companies being LG, Lotte, SK Group, Daewoo, Hanjin, Kia, and the crowning glories, Samsung and Hyundai. Today, South Korea is the 5th largest export in the world with the G20's largest budget surplus. It also has the world's 8th highest medium household income, highest in Asia, and it also has the highest credit rating out of any country in East Asia. As of 2015, they achieved the title of being the world's largest shipbuilder at over 2 million in gross tonnage, about 41% of the world's total. On top of that, in 2005, they became the world's first country to fully transition into high-speed internet. South Korea takes tech very seriously, and it exudes through the people's lives every day in a very interesting way. I mean, they even have their own robot prison guard. This means we gotta take it over too. Koreans are kind of like sponges. When they see something they like, they watch it, they observe it, they imitate it, they memorize it, they recreate it, master it, and obsess over it. This can be both a good and bad thing depending on what we're talking about. First of all, South Korea has about 51 million people and has the highest percentage of adults 25 to 34 years old that have tertiary education degrees. The country is almost completely homogenous at about 96% ethnically Korean, whereas the remaining 4% are made up of a number of foreigners, mostly being Chinese, Americans, and Vietnamese.
They're such random facts.
Hey, I still like it. Like, it's, you know.
Now, without even really having to explain that much, I'm pretty sure you're all aware of how incredibly different South Koreans are from their brothers up north. In fact, on average, South Koreans are about 2 inches or 5 centimeters taller than the North Koreans due to their access to healthier and more diverse food options. South Korea, no surprise, speaks Korean, which is not only unique because there aren't really any languages related to it. Some might say Japanese is like a way distant cousin, but also because of the writing system. Back in the 1400s, Sejong the Great was like, dude, I'm sick of the Chinese characters. It's too hard. Can we just make new ones? So they did. Today, Hangul, or as the North Koreans call it, Choseongul, is a phonetic alphabet that is incredibly easy to learn. It literally only takes like an hour for anybody to learn it. I mean, this letter makes a n sound, and this makes an ah sound, and so on.
Okay, how do I remember?
The strange thing, though, is that Hangul is the only writing system in the world that uses syllable clusters. So in order to write, you kind of have to smash either 2 or 3 letters into a box format that goes either
That's
2
like
across
Chinese,
and
actually.
1 at the bottom, or 3 all
But the characters are simplified.
That's what he said. It was.
the way down. So for example, the word for foot is bal. So you'd have to take the B sound next to the ah sound and the sound, making bal. And that's it. That's like 90% of the writing. Box smashing. The problem, though, is that speaking Korean is a nightmare. The grammar is all backwards. There's like subject indicators and possessive prefixes. There's 높은 말, 동갑 말, 낮은 말. 엄마, 나의 한국어 수준 어때요? 어떻게 생각합니까?
뭐 이제 4살 5살 애기 수준.
That's what my mom would say about my Chinese, so I shouldn't laugh.
Basically, after the Korean War, the two Koreas diverged very drastically. Essentially, unlike their brothers up north, South Korea became a democratic presidential republic, adopting a capitalistic model for their economy, with free market enterprise encouraging a competitive private sector. This did wonders for them. Today, they are classified as one of the 4 Asian tigers, along with Hong Kong, Singapore, and Taiwan, meaning that they have grown at an economic rate over 10% annually over the past 30 years. Remember the Germany episode we talked about the Wirtschaftswunder? Yeah, they basically did the same thing. After war times, they started working really hard. Just Google Miracle on the Han River. After the war, most of the Americans left, but they still kept some army bases with soldiers in places like Gyeonggi-do, where my dad was born, and Daegu, where my mom was born. Anyway, South Korea is a place where the future is embraced, but the past is never let go of. Traditional dances like the colorful Choyeongmu and Talchum mask dances. If you're lucky to witness it, the long ribbon spinning Pungmul dance can be seen in certain areas. Jultagi tightrope performers, and namsadang acrobatics where people launch high from seesaws. Also, the amazing traditional raspy voiced pansori singing has never gone out of style. Usually it's accompanied by these drums. Buk, right mom? Buk. And what is this one called?
장구.
Janggu.
Like that.
Taekwondo and Hapkido are the two national martial arts. No surprise, South Korea ranks #1 in the Olympics. Most Koreans at some point will probably learn at least a little bit of Taekwondo. I took it as a kid. And Mom, you took it too, right? You took Taekwondo when you were younger?
Yeah, when I was in high school.
You were like the only girl in your
Ooh,
class,
look at
right?
her.
How many boys were in your class?
Oh, 50, 60.
And what belt did you get up to?
Black.
Black belt. So yeah, basically my mom can
Oh.
kill your mom.
Why do I have to kill?
Why do you
Speaking
have
of martial arts, South Korea is a conscription country with all men required to serve in the military anywhere between the ages of 18 to 35 for about 2 years. Women are allowed to volunteer too if they wish. Most Koreans still get married in the 전통 예식 traditional hanbok style wedding.
I love traditional Korean weddings. It's so beautiful.
You've seen it?
Mm-hmm.
You experience it?
And there's also a part where like the bride's family and friends have to like beat the husband's feet for some reason. Mom, why do
Oh my god,
Patty.
why?
they do that? Why do they like beat the man's feet during the wedding?
Maybe punishing him to take away from their daughter.
So they're like punishing him like, oh, it's payback for all the pain you will give me. So much fun side note, people usually try to avoid marrying someone with the same last name as them in South Korea. The problem is that only
Everyone's got the same last names.
three last names make up about half of the entire population: Kim, Lee, and Park. Today numbers are a little hard to estimate, but many will say that about a third of the country identifies as Christian, mostly Protestant branches, along with a sizable Buddhist community at maybe 20%, whereas the rest claim to vaguely follow ancient traditional Korean-style Confucianism, the indigenous shamanism, or no affiliation at all. In fact, after the US, South Korea sends more Christian missionaries abroad than any other country in the world. Today, South Korea has a huge esports industry. And
Oh,
gamers are
yes.
celebrities. They can make millions. Of course, this can also lead to some problems, as some people have been known to have died by playing non-stop or actually killing people or getting arrested
Yeah?
for neglecting their children in favor of playing video
Oh my gosh.
Man, why are you giving video games a bad name? Come on now.
games. Coincidentally, one where you have to raise an online virtual baby. I'm not even joking. That's a true story. Look it up. Like the Japanese, Koreans love their
said it's a true
norebangs,
story.
mojeongs, and jjimjibangs. However, the difference is that Koreans usually don't cover themselves with towels. They just go butt naked. I like your style. South Koreans also have disputably the highest percentage of plastic surgeries performed
Yes.
per capita in the world at
God,
around
what a
20 per
difference.
1,000 residents. The most popular one, mostly for women, being the double eyelid surgery, in which they add a fold to their
my
eyelids
friend
as
did
it's seen
that.
as more attractive. Parents even usually give their daughters the surgery as a graduation gift. 엄마, 왜 한국 여인들은 쌍꺼풀 수술을 하는 것을 예쁘다고 생각합니까?
Because it is pretty.
No, I mean like kind of, but like sometimes
Exactly our
like
point.
내 생각은 수술한 여자 애기는 like when they come out they're gonna have like the 외꺼풀, so it's like 수술 또 계속 해야 돼요 for like every generation.
People thinking about the beauty is getting changed.
Oh, yeah, but you can't change your genetics. In terms of controversies, South Koreans usually rank in the top 10 or even 5 countries with the highest suicide rates. Honor culture is so high that sometimes it affects people that don't feel like they meet societal expectations. Students have some of the highest stress levels in the world. Many go to hagwons after school, which is like another special school. You can go to school after school for more school,
tutors.
and it ends at like 10 p.m. Students get like no sleep. And finally, unfortunately, sometimes Koreans can be a little discriminatory against non-Koreans. As a homogenous nation with no real minority experience prior to the 20th century, you might find shockingly racist depictions of certain people groups that everyone is just kind of comfortable with. Sometimes they even put up signs saying no foreigners. They are just starting to kind of move on from that, but it's kind of still there.
What the hell's that? Snoop Dogg, what?
Anyway, there are so many things I wish I could talk more about, like how Koreans use the Korean age system. They ask for your blood type because it's like a horoscope sign type of thing. The festivals of Chuseok and Seonnal. There's still like a surviving heir to the former emperor that exists today. Jeju Island has those diving women. Arirang is like the national song that everybody knows. K-pop and K-dramas have taken the world by storm. Usually K-dramas are accompanied with strange or horribly translated subtitles with the worst commercial interruptions. 장미야.
Oh, that's so true.
당신은 사랑해. 왜 그렇게 하니? 오빠, 저는 이미 결혼해. 여러분, 보브 세계트 커피 신발을 매우 편안합니다. 오, 지금 싸! Contemporary K-pop artists like H.O.T, B and Boa, Girls' Generation, Super Junior, AOA, Big Bang, 21, EXO. Tons of Americans with Korean heritage have also made their mark, like John Cho,
BTS.
Randall Park, Kim Jong, Victor Barbado, and the list goes on and on. South Korea went from a war-torn shanty peninsula to a world-renowned power player, and it all had to do with their international outreach. This brings us to our last and final section, the... South Korea has always kind of had to prove itself against not only their neighbors, but to their own brothers up north to show that they could become something great apart from the political divergence factor. First of all, South Korea has great ties to the European Union as they make up the second largest export partner. Tourism has exploded since the 80s and 90s, and many Koreans study abroad in Europe for college semesters. Japan is like their best frenemy. Although the Koreans loved watching the Japanese being deposed after World War II,
There's still a lot of contention between the two countries.
it wasn't long until they had their own problems in the Korean War. After the war, the Japanese befriended the South, and since then, relations have gotten much better. Koreans admit they can't get enough of Japanese anime, J-pop, and they do like the colorful culture and cuisine as they make one of the largest groups that visit annually. The Philippines was one of the first friends that they had even before the split. In terms of their close friends, Koreans would probably say China and kind of the US. Both countries host the largest numbers of Koreans in diaspora at around 2.5 million each, and both are the largest export partners. China kind of acts as like the mediator friend between them and North Korea, and they struggled alongside them during the Japanese Empire occupation years, in which both were required to speak Japanese and throw away their customs for like 3 decades. Like my mom's mom, my grandma. Mom, didn't you say like your mom spoke Japanese with your stepdad or something like that?
Yeah, they spoke with Japanese all the time. When I was little, they were educated with Japanese when Japanese occupied Korea.
But they never spoke Japanese to you?
Because I don't know Japanese, and then they were kept secret
They kept a secret for the secret
for the
language from you?
children. For children,
Kind of like what you and Dad did with me in Korean. Like you just
something like that.
kept this.
Yeah.
They had a secret
That's
language.
very smart.
The U.S. played a major role during the Korean War and has a mutual defense treaty, meaning that any attack on South Korea would summon an immediate U.S. response. Of course, the U.S. still has military bases located in the country, which of course brings in some anti-American protests since many are kind of weary of the U.S. presence. Nonetheless, Barack Obama is even quoted for saying that South Korea is one of the U.S.'s closest allies and greatest friends, as they have shared so much over the past 7 decades. When it comes to North Korea, though, they kind of see him as like the brother that stubbornly thinks he can still make a point that was lost like 70 years ago. They want to unify, but just one man kind of stands in the way. South Koreans have been trying to sneak propaganda into North Korea by hurling DVDs and USB sticks and gifts and other such items via balloon across the border. They figure the best way to reunify is to expose North Korea to how great the outside world is. In conclusion, although millennia of kingdoms and empires have passed, much of South Korea's global story starts after the Korean War. This little peninsula has been able to create a supernova of recognition for itself in such a short amount of time. Let's hope that the future brings even more light to the world. Thank you, Mom, for helping me in this episode.
Thank you for inviting me here. I really appreciate it.
Do you really?
The honor of that.
Do you really appreciate? Are you just saying that?
Oh, that's absolutely. He is mixed. His dad, what does his dad look like? Wow. That's a lot of effort to put together a video like this. Baby, that's research.
That's research.
We can barely do research for a music video.
And I like his energy.
He has great
Yes.
energy, yeah.
Yes.
You all should go follow him on YouTube. It's called Geography Now. And he makes a lot of his money from Patreon, where you give donations. And I think a lot of parents love it, and they like their kids to watch it because he makes geography fun.
Yes.
It's interesting. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I mean, that's still like learning. I mean, absolutely 100% learning, but in a fun way and an energetic way of, you know, not being able to sleep like you said earlier. Ay, ay, ay.
We're going to take a test next.
No! You said there's no test.
calm down. Jeez. South Korea, I'm sure this is just scratching the surface of what your country has and all the beautiful people that live there. So, if you have anything else that's interesting that you want to share, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear more about it. And of course, for anyone else from the rest of the world, if there are interesting countries you want us to check out, let us know too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, y'all. Peace out.
Peace out.